disappointed. They're going to be very disappointed that they went and looked at these $400,000-$500,000 houses, these $1 million homes you've been showing them, and find out they only qualify for $175,000. So even though they were a potential sale, now they're just disappointed. They're down in the dumps, and they want to wait until they have enough money or enough buying power to get that $500,000 house because we sold them a pipe dream that they didn't qualify for. So it's really important to not put the cart before the horse, so to speak, to use the old saying. We don't want to do that. We don't want to set people up for disappointment. We want to make sure that we handle our business in a systematic way. The other thing that it does is it sets you up as having a reputation of a person who kind of doesn't know what they're doing. I've heard things like that being said about people who start taking people out, and then when they find a home they like, you can't get them into the home, not because you don't know how to write a contract or you don't know how to get the offer accepted, but just merely for the fact that they can't get approved. And they're not going to go around telling people, well, I didn't qualify. They're going to say the realtor didn't know what they were doing. They couldn't get me qualified. And you don't want that reputation. Your reputation in our business is very, very important because most of the business that you'll end up getting is going to be by referral and word of mouth. If you have a system, and your system, even though it might start out slow, you might not like sending people over to the lender first and waiting on the pre-approval and then going through that process. If you don't do it that way, you're going to end up creating a bigger problem for yourself down the road. And that your reputation is going to be marred in the industry. And you don't want that because you want people to say, hey, it took some time. They sent me over to the lender. Once I got that pre-approval, it was off to the races. And so that's what we are trying to make sure that you understand. This methodology works. If you create this system and you work it, you're going to be successful in it. The most important thing to remember in real estate when it comes to buying and selling and transactions and wanting to make money is that it's a volume game. If you know at the end of the day how much money you want to make for this year, what you need to do is base that upon how many homes you need to sell for the year. So if the average home commission you're bringing in is $7,500 and you're trying to get to $100,000, you're going to need to know you need to sell about 10, 15 houses a year. In order to do that, you're going to have to send a whole lot of people to a lender. So you need to be looking at if you're members of sororities or organizations, or if you have a full-time job or you're coming out of a career, do not be ashamed or afraid to let any and everybody know that you're a licensed realtor. And I even say let the people that don't like you know that you're a licensed realtor, because they'll talk about you more. They might not say good things about you, but they're talking about you, and they're talking about you. You might end up getting the lead because everybody doesn't necessarily agree with the person that's talking about you, and they might want to help you out just because the person was talking. So I don't mind. And so we were talking about quite a few things in the brokerage. I mean, we've had quite a few people coming through. I think we had almost 9 people in the brokerage yesterday. I said we get one more, we'd have been at capacity. We'd have to shut it down, but it was really great to be able to have some of these conversations about working with people, because working with buyers is just working with people. We're grooming them to be buyers most of the time. Every now and then you're going to get a person, they're going to come, they're going to have a lender letter already, or they're going to be easily pre-approved. But for most part, you just get people's information, name, email, telephone number, send it over to your lender, and pray that they get pre-approved. But don't wait. Send another person and another person. And like I said, if you're talking to people in your organizations, if you're going after the low-hanging fruit, your sphere of influence, your family members, your close friends, your Facebook family, those people, if you continue to let them know, hey, I need a referral. Is anybody out there ready to buy? If you're always making that the topic of your conversation, you're going to get people say, you know what, I'm interested in buying. Do you know what the first step from home buying process is? Call me. Call me if you don't. I can help you. Bam. Most people don't know what the first step is. The first step is really to reach out to you, but you got to get people to do that. And immediately, no matter what they're saying, if they're saying I want to wait for 2 years, or I want to wait till my lease expires, or whatever, that's okay. I hear what you're saying, but let me get you over to my lender now to see how far we are away from getting you pre-approved. It might take a year for you to get pre-approved. It might take 6 months. By the time your lease expires, we might need it. So whatever they say to you, it's always, let me get you over to my lender. And I cannot say that to you enough, because what you're doing is stoking your pipeline. You're building that pipeline so that when those people are ready to be approved, guess what? You have buyers. Now that you have buyers, you need to get to the next step of the process. You get the lender letter. Now you need to know what you're going to do with them. And this is where the buyer's consultation is so important. So at this point, I'm going to stop and ask, does anybody have any questions before I move on about anything that I've said?
I do have a question. So when a buyer reaches out to you, they already have a pre-approval, and they don't need to go to our lender. Is it customary to collect that pre-approval document from them?
Absolutely. You want to see, okay, just for the record and for the rest of your life as realtors, nothing anybody tells you matters in real estate. You have to see it.
Okay.
So they say, I'll have a pre-approval. Great. Send me the lender letter. Let me look at it, and I'll set up a buyer's consultation with you.
Okay.
That's fine. Now, sometimes you got to watch these lender letters very carefully. Some people will go online and they have these things, what's it, Rocket Mortgage and all of these other things. They won't be a specific pre-approval or anything like that. It just say they're pre-approvable. So you got to even look at that. It's not saying that we've done anything to get you a pre-approval letter. This is not really a pre-approval letter. It doesn't have any terms. It doesn't have any substance in the letter. It's just basically based upon whatever information they find on the internet, these people are saying, we believe, and you might get some of that stuff if you're, on Credit Karma or Experian. Hey, you can lower your auto insurance, or you can do this, and so like that, they have things, hey, you can apply for a home loan. Just push apply. You push apply, you're pre-approvable. Well, that's not based upon anything, because you haven't sent them in, the person hasn't sent them any documentation, or they haven't run them through desktop underwriting. They haven't looked at their income, credit, income, and assets. They haven't looked at their debt to income ratio. They really haven't done anything. They just base that upon public information that's on the internet. So if your person comes to you with one of those type of letters, then what you would need to say to them is that, hey, this is good information, but let me get you through to a mortgage originator, or let me get you to my lender so that he can verify this information. Because I've had people come and they've had those type of letters, and the lender saying no, they're not ready yet. I couldn't get them approved. If I did do this loan, we're going to get to the table and they're not going to be able to close, and that's very disappointing as well. So that's the other thing. Many people can give you letters, and other lenders might give you letters. The question I have is, can that person close a loan, or can that company close a loan? There's really no way for you to know, but you can check and balance it simply by having Michael Cooper run their information and see where they are. If he gives you a thumbs up and say, yes, I can get that person pre-approved and I can beat their interest rate, then that's great information for you to go back and tell the buyer. If he can't, then you want to tread very carefully. And you really have to kind of make a judgment call as to, whether it's worth your energy and time to give that lender a shot. And I can tell you, if there's a set of questions that we can work with you to make sure that you're asking the lender the right kinds of questions to probe whether or not they've done their due diligence and if this letter is legitimate. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. I have another follow-up to that. So
Sure.
so if they come to you with the letter and you basically see that it's, from a source that might not, might just be a pre-qual and not a pre-approval. Um, when Mike runs their information, is it a hard hit on their credit? Because, you know, sometimes people will say, well, I don't want my information, my credit to be ran again. When Mike does it, is it a soft hit or a hard hit?
It's going to be a hard hit. And here's what you have to help people understand. Whenever you're shopping for a specific type of loan, the credit bureaus factor that into their formulation. So even though it's a hard hit, it's not a hard hit like pulling your credit at K Jewelers. This person is shopping for a mortgage, so we expect a few mortgage companies are going to pull their information. They're shopping to see what the best rate is. So you're given an allowance for it, so it doesn't really affect your credit like dropping it 5 and 10 points. It's not going to do that. It's going to show as a hard hit, but it's not damaging in terms of pulling you out of the qualification zone. Does that make sense?
So it's like...
So it might be a point. It might be a point. So if you're right on the cusp, yeah, it might knock you out. But if you're on the cusp, you need to keep working anyway, because they're going to pull your credit throughout the process of the loan. Just because they gave you a pre-approval, you still got to get ratified with a specific house, and then they start the actual approval process. Once they start that actual approval process, you got to keep your credit score at or higher than where it was anyway. So if you're right on that borderline, and 1 point is going to be a make or break, you're really not ready. You follow what I'm saying? You're on the cusp, but you need to be pushing deeper into the approval zone, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if a person is yes.
Okay, perfect. So I want to make sure that that is totally clear to everybody, because we have that question asked a lot of buyers. And Tasha, if a lender purports to give a buyer a pre-approval without doing a hard pull on their credit, they have not done their due diligence. So as it pertains to your buyer, they are going to want a lender to do their due diligence in advance. And that lender needs to know everything that's on their credit, like Shay said, their whole CIA portfolio, so their credit, income, and assets. So they're going to need to have the most detailed information possible to make sure that the lender letter that they give to that buyer is solid. Because otherwise what happens is what we've seen happen so many times before, where a lender will simply give over a letter to a buyer, but they haven't done their due diligence. So just let the buyer know that that is a necessary part of the loan approval process. That's the first step, and they want the lender to do that, because otherwise the letter's not worth the paper that it's written on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So some of the things, like, just while I'm here, Jasmine, and if you can just chime in, some of the things that we're working on, really just to move more into the digital technological pieces, is we're working on the video channel for you. So a lot of these Zoom calls that we're recording, we're going back and editing. We're putting together a Porterhouse channel, which will be available to you all on YouTube. And one of the things that we're developing is an actual buyer's consultation that you'll be able to do, or it'll walk you through it, so to speak, online. But what I really want to make sure is that anytime we do a buyer's consultation, and we have one coming up, you guys hear how we run through this presentation, because it's very important for you to get to a point where you're comfortable enough to talk about the majority of the information in the buyer's consultation, that you're able to speak to it. The best way for you to do it is to go into BrokerMan. Go down to where it says working with buyers in BrokerMan. Open up the buyer's consultation buyer's guide. Print that thing out and read it. Literally read it from cover to cover. It's 52 pages. It's not going to kill you. You have plenty of time during COVID. Just read it. And then form questions about different things. If you don't know what something means, good. That's something that you need to be asking questions about. during this time. So read it, form questions, and make sure that you understand the buyer's consultation, the buyer's guide. The buyer's guide itself is this exact same template that you see on your screen. This template is much shorter than the buyer's guide, but if you read through the buyer's guide, you ask yourself questions, make little highlights and notes in there about what to say and how would you message. You're going to have so much information. You're going to have copious amount of information to talk to, not just during the buyer's consultation, but when you're out in the street. You're just going to have a wealth of information that as soon as somebody starts to talk about being interested in buying homes and what they understand about the industry, you're going to be able to show yourself the expert just because you can refocus their conversation and say, well, I hear what you're saying, and that's kind of true, but here's what it actually is. When you do that, you establish yourself as the expert. You hand them that business card, they're going to call you. So I want you guys to make sure that you're being proactive. And I'm going to tell you something. We cannot give you. There's nobody who can give you real estate. You really have to get it. You have to be proactive. Read through the book. Okay. Once you read through the book, read through a contract. Read through the agency agreement. You just have to take the time to read word for word. And ask yourself questions. It'll then develop a volume of information and questions and things in your mind that you would want answered so that you have the appropriate answers. So that's the way that it was given to me. That's the way I learned it. We had to actually sit and just read through the information, read through the contracts, understand what each document was pertaining to. So now when we look at them, we can glance at them in 30 seconds flat and know what's missing, what's not there, where they missed, where you might have missed some information. But it doesn't come just because, we've done it so much. It actually came from just taking a moment, sitting down and reading through the information. And there's a ton of information in the library. And then also, after you read through the information, read through the scripts. So if there's scripts in brokerment that talk about just $1 million scripts. There's scripts of working with buyers, converting renters into buyers. All of those scripts are just basic conversations. It shows you how to have a conversation and answer and probe and ask questions to get people interested in buying. And that's the whole thing. Once you get them interested in buying, now you're the person who's going to help them buy a house. And then we get to what we're talking about today, which is the actual buyer's consultation, okay? So with that being said, Jasmine, do you want to talk a little bit about what's coming up with the digital documents or with the videos that we're working on?
Yes. So as you guys know, we've been endeavoring to record as many of our Zoom trainings as possible. And our goal was to create a video library for you guys. So we have multiple resources. Shay talked about your BrokerMint library, and I want you to go there every time you get a chance because there's such a wealth of resources there. You really can't exhaust it. And even if you get through reading everything that's there, it's good for you to reread it because those scripts give you the language that you're going to need, like Shay said, in order to be comfortable with obstacle handling and just handling the different types of questions, challenges, and concerns that buyers are going to bring to the table. So just read that information, reread it, and then go to your video library. So we've created a Porterhouse YouTube channel. It's currently unlisted, so we're adding some finishing touches to the videos, but we have over 15 hours worth of videos there for you currently. So you can listen to those, listen to them several times if you need to, because there's a whole lot of meat in those videos. And we want for you guys to be well versed in the industry and know all of the things that pertain to the buying process, the listing process, your contracts, building your book of business, and building your pipeline and everything that we've been talking about. So as you go through that video library that we're preparing for you guys, you're going to find all of that information in there. So I want you to regard it highly because there are truly some gems in those videos. And I will share the link with everybody for the channel. And once you get it, just go ahead and subscribe to the Porterhouse YouTube channel because all of our training videos are going to be available to you guys there. And if
Well,
anybody has
awesome.
any questions, just let me know, because we have them currently available. We just haven't published them just yet because we wanted to work on the last couple pieces.
Awesome. So I'm really excited about that, because what that's going to do is give you all an opportunity to actually hear how we talk through questions and things of that nature. And let me also say this to you guys. Don't be afraid to make mistakes or not know information. When you're having a conversation, if you don't know something, don't make it up. The worst thing you can do is make something up. When you make it up, then we have to go behind you and correct it, and it's not going to make you look good. It's not going to make us look unified. So the most important thing is, you get a question that you don't know, simply say, hey, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Let me give my broker a call. Let me give Mr. Porter a call. Let me call somebody, because that's a very good question, and I'm not too familiar with that aspect. And that's fine. If you're new, say, I've only done a few transactions, or I'm new to this. I haven't done a transaction with a buyer yet, but my team will help us walk through it. So let me get my team leader on the phone. Whatever you need to say, whatever you have to do, don't make it up. It will not bode well for you. So just simply say, I don't know. Let me find out, or let me get back to you. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to check in to make sure you still can hear me. Okay, so that's the field work, so to speak. Okay, that's what you need to do when you're out and about. You need to have that information in your mind. You need to have conversations about it with your friends and loved ones. You practice on the people that you know. You talk to them about things. You kind of do it with the people that you know and trust, because when you with a stranger, it's a little bit different. But I actually think it's a lot easier, because they'll either know that you know what you're talking about, or they'll be a little skeptical. But it doesn't matter. You're trying to get the information out, and you really want the person to know, I'm a realtor. Here's my card. When you're ready to buy real estate, and you will be soon, you're going to call me. No matter what I'm saying, that's what I'm trying to get over to that. That's what I'm trying to convey to any prospective buyer, okay? And if they're ready now, I'll get their information immediately, and I'll share it immediately with my Cooper. I can't say that enough. That's the way you build your pipeline, all right? And then with that being said, now you've done the field work. You got the pre-approval letter. Now you're back in the office, you sit them down, you put this beautiful presentation up on the screen, and I think this is the presentation I would use from now on. Even though I'm going to still give them a copy of the 52-page guide, make sure you print it out on the copier machine in color, front and back, staple it, put it in a nice folder, make sure they have something in hand. So you always want to give people something tangible with your presentation, because the documents that they're going to sign are all done through DotLoop. So that's electronic documentation. But I like to give people something in their hand that they can feel. It's just a tactile sense that people just enjoy to have something in their hand. So that's really good. But when I sit them down, and the first thing I point out, I don't want to ever move past the screen. I want them to kind of absorb it. I want them to look around. And then I want to point their attention to a couple of things. I want to say, hey, this is what we call a happy home hunting packet. And I always say that. And then I explain to them, it's called the Happy Home Hunting Packet, because that's what we want it to be. We want you to be happy at the end of the day with the services that we give you. We want you to be happy with the experience that you have. We want you to be happy with the fact that we sat down with you and did a buyer's consultation. And we want you to be happy that we told you everything up front. We disclosed to you what things you can expect, what type of money you're going to expect to spend. And it's called the Happy Home Hunting Packet also because finding a home is a lot like hunting. And if you've never been hunting, if you know anything about hunting, you can't guarantee that the deer is going to be out there if you want to go shoot a little deer or a rabbit. Everything that you can think of shooting is not really a good animal. But anyway, the point is, if you were going hunting, you had to go hunting, it doesn't mean that the prey is going to be out there waiting for you to come hunt it. So it's really about being proactive and vigilant and making sure that you're ready, willing, and able to go and hunt for a property. But we don't want them to get, so we have formulas for that to make it more successful for them, but we want to just put that in their mind so that they're not disappointed if they don't go out right away and find a house. So this is all done strategically to have a conversation even before you get into the presentation, okay? And then we say the packet is there so that you have something that you can follow along with me through the process, and you will know where we are at every point of the process and what's about to happen next. So everything about that 52-page packet is set up so that they have information, they have it in their hand, they know what's going to happen, they've been told what's going to happen up front. It keeps their expectations and their morale high if things don't go their way. They know what the next step in the process is along the way once we do get a ratified contract, all the way until closing. They know who the key characters are, what role they play, everything. So that packet is very important. And so this presentation is a complement to the Happy Home Hunting packet. And we want this to be a complete guide to the home buying process. So I point that out to them. So we try not to leave any area untouched. If you read the Happy Home Hunting Guide, it even has a long section on packing and moving. It has a section about helping children cope with homes, where there's various activities that you can do with the child if they have to cope with moving away from their friends and looking at a new school and all that. So it really touches upon the entire moving process. All right. The first few pages, again, are introductory pages. It talks about porterhouse. I'm not going to go through that today. I'm not trying to get to that. I'm trying to move on to some of the things that I spend a lot of time with, okay? You get to this page, why you need a realtor. You can read just the little bullets down there, the little arrows. We can save you endless amounts of time, money, and frustration. We know the housing market inside and out, et cetera, and it goes on, okay? This page talks about what a fiduciary is, you know. So the agency part is the first document you're going to have them sign at the end of the presentation. So you definitely want to convey to them what agency is and what dual agency, because those are the documents that they have to sign. Every person that you show a house has to sign understanding whom agents represent. If they don't sign it, there's a section at the bottom saying, I presented it to them, and on this day they were unwilling or unable to sign the documents. That's fine, but you do have to disclose agency and tell them what agency means, okay? And tell them what the fiduciaries are, the benefits of having the fiduciary, having me as a fiduciary, meaning I have to put your needs and your wants above my own in helping you find this property, okay? It sets a higher moral standard and an ethical standard for you working for the client. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on?
No.
All right. Thank you, Tasha. All right. Of course, you let them know you're a member of the Real Estate Commission, and in this document, these seesaws we talked a lot about before. It describes what agency looks like if they're unrepresented on the selling side or unrepresented on the buyer side. I'm not going to go through that. Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I think that was Dee, but her phone started going out.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Dee, yeah, your phone is reverberating. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat. Jasmine, you can read the question if you can.
Okay, I'll read the question. Dee, your phone's giving a whole lot of feedback. Type your question up and I'll make sure we get it answered.
All right, guys. So These slides, again, they all talk about agency. They describe agency in some way, shape, or form. This last slide talks about dual agency, and it also represents what happens when the buyer and the seller are both represented by a real estate agent, and it basically levels the playing field, so to speak. Okay, that's what's going to happen in most of the cases that you're going to find yourself in, and your job is to have a happy medium in the middle, so to speak. And I like to say that to my clients, that our job is, because what I don't want them to think is that I'm a miracle worker and that I'm going to get them every single thing that they desire and want, and this is going to be the dream home they're going to live in for the rest of their life. And I don't want to send that message to them, because most of the time it's not going to be their dream home. It's going to be one of the homes that lead to the dream home. And if they've been through a number of homes, they might be buying their dream home, so they already have an understanding of the process. They know how it works, and they know what they want. And they're just going to be very adamant. And most of the time, if they're at that point, they're building from the ground up. So that's a whole other process. It's easy. It's a different thing than what we're generally talking about in this. This is a resale kind of presentation that generally speaks to resale, but we do have parts of that home guide that also speaks to new sales. But just for the sake, most of the sales that you're going to be doing are resales, so this presentation is geared towards that. In all relationships, as a real estate agent, you have a duty to act honestly with both the buyer and seller without revealing the buyer's confidential information. And I always say that to my buyers. I want them to know and be assured that whatever's confidential is confidential. And whatever I do have to share, to be honest, I do have to share. I just want to make that clear. And then you have to go through distinguishing sometimes, what does that really look like? How does that work? I'll give you an example. Something that's confidential might be that the buyer has some tax issues that the lender needs to work through, and he's going to need some more time. So what you need to do is then send over to the seller an addendum asking them to extend the settlement date. And you just simply put on it, the buyer and seller agreed to extend settlement by XYZ. Now, of course, the seller going to say, why do we need to extend the date? Well, the lender had a situation that they needed to work through on behalf of the buyer. That's it. And if they reach out to the lender, and I even tell them, I said, you can reach out to the lender. And if they reach out to the lender has the same responsibility to not release the confidential aspect of the buyer's information, and that they have a tax issue. That's confidential. But we do need more time to complete this contract. Does that make sense, everybody? I hope it does. I'm not going to keep asking people to chime in. When I say it makes sense, I'm hoping it's making sense. I'm going to move on. If you have any questions, like I said, you can jump in, or you can put it in the chat. All right? This is one of my favorite sections of the entire presentation, and this is where I sit back, and I remember one time, I think I was on a training, and I had some people in the on the training with me. And I said, so why do you want to buy a home? And I've done hundreds of buyers consultations. And for the first time, the person said, what business of yours is that? And so I was like, whoa. And keep in mind, I'm doing a training. People are sitting, listening. I think it was a Zoom call. And I was just I didn't know what to do with that one. But I figured out, I said the next few slides kind of talk about people's motivation. So I wanted to find out for you, what was your motivation to buy a home? And so you want to give the buyer an opportunity at this point in the conversation to tell you exactly what they're envisioning, what's their purpose for buying a home. Some people want to get out of the rental situation. That's good, because the next slide is going to talk a lot about getting out of the rental situation. And the majority of your buyers, if they are going to be new buyers, and I'll say maybe 60-40. 60% of my buyers have all been new buyers. They've never bought before. They always rented. About 40% of them are people who have purchased in the past. They may be renting, maybe getting them ready to move out of a home into a new home, and et cetera. Whatever the situation is, you want to hear that information, because then it helps you, once you know these next couple of pages, to gauge how much information you want to give them on one thing or another, because the next page really sets you apart as the real estate expert. You start to share with them insider information that they may not know. They might have heard little tips about it, but they really haven't done the research that you're going to sound like you've done if you pay attention to the next part of the presentation. So my favorite slide is the next slide. So why do you want to buy a home? Well, I want to upsize, or I want to downsize, or I'm tired of renting, or it's just time for me to move to Morocco or whatever. You know, I'm ready to buy somewhere different. I want to do whatever. Okay, whatever that conversation is like, you want to say that's good. Everyone who I've talked to, the first thing they're telling me, some way, shape, or form, is that they're trying to improve the quality of their life. So whatever they say, however they say it, that's what we thought. You want to improve the quality of your life. All right? And then they say, but did you know that a mortgage, unlike rent, is made up of 4 things? And this is where I say, I want you to write this down in your document. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. PITI. That's how we remember it in the industry. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance. So your mortgage is made up of 4 things. Your rent is just one thing. They're renting the money out of your pocket. It's giving you 30 more days at the place that you're a tenant. And if you don't pay the next month, they're going to put you out. All right? So we start to distinguish between renting versus ownership. You pay the rent, it's gone. When you pay your mortgage, you're really not paying anything. You're actually investing in yourself. You're paying the interest, okay, which is the amount of money that you owe the lender for allowing you to borrow such a substantial amount. You're paying your taxes, which we all have to do as human beings on the face of this earth, in America at least, as long as we live. And you're investing in insurance to make sure that your property stays safe. So it's really an investment into something that belongs to you. When you make the principal, you're buying more of your house back. And then that in turn becomes the equity that you have in your house. So you're just investing back into yourself as you pay down your mortgage. All right? The great thing is that the 2 things that you don't really benefit from, which is the taxes and the interest, are the 2 things that they allow you to benefit from. So you benefit from the principal because, again, you're paying it down. Your mortgage was $300,000. You paid $1,000 on it. Now it's $299,000. You pay again, it's $298,000. So you're benefiting from it because you're buying that much every month, and that in turn becomes equity that you own in your house. So as you buy it down, you're buying more of your house back from the bank, so to speak. So that's how you benefit from the principal. The insurance is something that you just benefit from in case an act of God happens, where something happens to your property, a fire, a tree falls on it, something of that nature. They're going to make you whole. They're going to give you your asset back so that you can continue to benefit in that way. The interest is the money that you're giving to the bank because they allowed you to borrow money from them. And the taxes is money you're giving to the government because, well, I don't know why you pay taxes. You just got to pay them. But the bottom line is that they allow you to write your interest and taxes off on a 30-year mortgage for at least the first 15 years. And about 80% of your mortgage is going to taxes and insurance during those years, because the bank wants their money before you start to benefit by paying the principal. So a little bit of your money is going to the principal. A lot is going to interest. Okay? They want to get their money first. So that being said, You tell them, how much of your rent do you get to write off? Well, everybody knows the answer to that. 0. You don't get to write any of your rent off. But if you write off about 80% of your taxes, and let's pretend like you have let's just say you have $1,000 a month. That means at the end of the 12 months, you've paid $12,000. 80% of $12,000, pull out your calculators. That's $9,600 in tax write-off that you get the following year just for having a mortgage. Whereas if you were paying $1,000 for rent for 12 months, that's $12,000 gone down the drain, no write-off or anything. That's a huge benefit. Most people sit back and say, wow. Even people who have homes, some of them are not itemizing. They're not, they're tax accounting or something's not happening. And they're not writing that part of their house off. They're not using it in that manner. So with that being said, you want to make sure that you bring that to people's attention, regardless if they've been renting or even if they've owned a home. Now people are leaning forward into your presentation. Tell me more. The next line, and I'm not going to go too much deeper in that. I hope you guys understand the tax and interest, tax deductibility piece. And that's lines 2 and 3 that I just went through. Line 4 talks about appreciation potential. So what I say about that is, I used to say one of my scenarios, and I like telling little stories, a little kind of jokes a little bit. I say, if you go to the Bugatti place and you drop $300,000, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's only worth $250,000. So it depreciates. If you say so, it depreciates in value. Well, the great thing about real estate is that there's a huge appreciation potential. And I always say there's an old saying that says, don't wait to buy real estate and just wait. Meaning, invest in real estate, and over time, real estate has the ability to appreciate and become a nice asset for you where you can write off. I'll give you an example of something, and Jasmine, you're going to be surprised about this. We had a house that was in the family and in Northwest, 1506 Spring Place, Northwest Washington, D.C. It was a home, family lived in it for years, really needed a lot of repairs. We had a wonderful investor, gave the family an incredible cash offer. So everybody was ready to take the offer, jumped on the offer, they moved. This guy came in there and he totally remodeled this home. It was just gorgeous. He blew it out from top to bottom. We put it on the market, and I think it sold back then, and this was just in 2014. It sold in 2014 for $740,000 or somewhere thereabouts, okay? And so, people got into the house. That was 2014. Well, I just so happened to be looking at it just yesterday. And it actually went back on the market last year and sold again in, I believe, October. And it sold for $950,000 in October. Just between 2014 and 2020, the house appreciated in value almost $200,000. That's a great investment for whoever bought the house and lived in it just for 2 years, because we know that their mortgage started out around $700,000, and if they paid it down over 6 years that they've been in there and then sold the house and made $950,000, they went home with a nice check, and that's a great thing. And so I like to use a story like that to move me right into the next line, which is the deferred gain and capital gains treatment. If that person is single, that means they get that whole $250,000 or so dollars tax-free. If that property would have appreciated in value to over $500,000 in that period of time, they would have got the whole $500,000 tax-free if they were married. And so people don't know that. And so what I like to point out to them, that these are huge benefits of home ownership that you don't get from renting. These are huge benefits that are going to benefit you in terms of the appreciation value. To use an example, like where can you take an investment and make $200,000 on your money, on your investment in a very short period of time, like 5 or 6 years? It's very difficult to do. You can't do it by leaving your money in the bank. Money markets aren't that secure. Stocks go up and down, but property tends to appreciate in value over time. In fact, 90% of the millionaires and billionaires on the face of the planet started with real estate. So that's a wonderful thing to push out. Now, I'm going to do what Jasmine calls a soft close. I think it's time, Jasmine.
Yes.
So go ahead. I'm going to let you do that.
So it's a few minutes after 12, and we do want to honor your time. So anybody that needs to log off, our commitment is to hold you for just an hour. I know we got started just a little bit late. We like to give people a chance to log on. So if you do need to go, then you are welcome to go ahead and go, and we'll continue until Shay closes for those that are able to stay on.
Before we move on, if there's anybody who has to go, we'll see you guys a little bit later.
See you,
hope you have
Tasha.
a great day. Okay, we hope you have a great day. For those of you guys that want to hang around for a few more minutes, I'm going to just finish going through this last line, and then I'll pick up at number 5 again, because I want to go over this a couple of times to make sure I get as many different concepts and ideas in your mind as possible, so that you are very comfortable presenting this. Because what I would like to do is have one of you all or some of you all just talk me through each line after we do this presentation a few times, because I want you to be very comfortable with this page, because if you are, you're going to be a master at doing the buyer's consultation. All right? Does anybody have any questions? Jasmine, do we have a question from Dee from earlier?
No, she didn't put a question in there. She was going to comment.
Right. Okay. Did she have a comment or anything?
Not at this point.
Okay. Well, I think this is a really good part where we can kind of stop. I think the first 5, just to kind of hone in on it, I'm going to just recap real quick. Once we asked the slide before, asked why do you want to buy a house, why do you want to buy a home, no matter wherever they say, it leads you to the first bullet. Most people want to improve the quality of their life. And what you just said is whatever they just said. You want to get out of renting, or you want to find an investment for you and your family, or you want a house that's bigger than where you are. You want a house that's smaller than where you are. Whatever it is, you're improving the quality of your life. The second thing is the tax deductibility of the mortgage interest and the property taxes. You want to start out by letting them know that mortgages comprise of 4 things: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And that one payment is broken up into those 4 things, 2 of which are the interest and the taxes. You can explain what principal is, you can explain what interest is, you can explain what taxes is, and explain what insurance is. And then you want to talk to them about how they get the write-off approximately, make sure you say approximately 80% of their mortgage for approximately the first 15 years of their mortgage. And then you want to try to do some type of calculation to give them a picture of what that means, and then ask them to compare that to renting. Do you get to do that with rent? No. Or if they've been a homeowner, did you know that? No. Now you're still establishing yourself as an expert, okay? Then you want to start out with the appreciation potential. You want to tell them some type of story or give them an analogy of what depreciation is and what appreciation is. And then you want to make sure you hone in and hit on the fact over and over that appreciation means that once you invest in this property, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your future. You're buying your property back every time you make a payment. You're not just paying something, you're investing in yourself. Every payment is an investment in yourself, and it's investment in your wealth. It's investment in your ownership. It's investment in a nest egg that's building somewhere. And then you can give them the example like I just gave you. And then with the houses that, you know, some people invest in, the property appreciates very quickly over a short period of time, and they can gain from it, move out of it, get the money in cash, and not have to pay taxes on it. $250,000 if they're single, or $500,000 if they're married. These are all very intriguing concepts, and you can really have a long conversation, and I let people talk. When I start sharing this information, I like when they ask me questions. I like when they get interested in that aspect, because now what they're doing is solidifying the fact that I'm going to buy a house. It makes all of your shopping efforts and everything that you're out in the market doing a lot easier, because in their mind, they have to get a piece of the rock. This little section, that first 5 bullets, those are so much gold. I can't explain to you what it does for the buyer's mentality. They were interested in buying. Now they're sold right here. They don't care what they have to do. They don't care what hurdles they have to jump through. In their mind, it crystallizes right here when they see the benefit. Okay? You go through the last 6 bullets, and then, bam, you hit them with the process. Now you start telling them about money. But again, you've already convinced them this is an investment. So whatever money you're spending is part of the investment. It's part of what you have to do in order to get your house, so that you can start getting appreciation of value. You can start investing in your mortgage, etc. Okay? So all of that being said, guys, I want to bring it to a close at this point. I'm going to pick up next week. We're going to go over this again. I'm going to have some of you guys talk me through those 5 bullets. I'm going to clean up any, things that are ambiguous for you. I want it to be sharp in your mind. I want you to be able to talk from it. You guys are going to be great at doing these buyer's consultations. We're really excited about it. So listen, if you don't have any questions, and if you do, I'll wait for a few minutes. If not, Jasmine, I'm going to bring this to a close. I want to thank you guys for jumping on, working with buyers. Remember, we have Realty Talks tomorrow at 12:30. And is it 12:30?
Yes, it is.
I think so. Yeah, okay. 12:30 tomorrow, we have Realty Talks. Join us again tomorrow. Guys, get excited, stay excited, get out, start calling your friends, calling your sphere of influence, talk about some of these things. Ask them, have they started thinking about it? What are they going to do? What are their future plans? People are nervous right now because of COVID, but everybody needs somewhere to live. And let them know that this is the time to take advantage of what's going on. Take advantage of the uncertainty. If you're especially if they're in a job that's one of those jobs that's deemed necessary. I can't think of the word right now that they're using. But if they're in that industry,
essential.
Essential, yeah. If they're an essential, then they're definitely in a situation where they can take advantage of the market. So encourage people. That's what your job is to do. Stay encouraged and stay motivated. Know your information. Those 5 bullets will not only transform the way you have conversation with buyers, it'll transform the way you think about buying and investing for yourself. Because we want you guys to buy. If you don't own a home, you need to get a home. If you're not investing, you need to start talking about the investment portfolio, because, guys, you get into real estate, you can make a lot of money. All right? With that being said, I'm going to end the meeting. If there are no questions, if all hearts and minds are clear, and I think we're headed to the office.